What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show. Mr. Gooner here, aka Manny. How you guys keeping? Hope you guys are keeping well. And thank you again for joining me. Listen, it's a new week. I thought, you know what? We've got a lot to cover. A lot happened over the weekend, I think. There's been a lot of speculation. There's been a lot of rumors surrounding Arsenal. And I'm made to believe that we have got a lot of potential signings to announce this week. Hence the reason for the title. There's going to be some massive week and it's announcement week. And as you can see, obviously at the bottom there, Zubimendi, Kepa, and possibly the announcement of Norgaad. So, yeah, we have a lot to cover today. So if you're around, if you're new and if you're there, just give me a like, drop me a like, drop a comment as per usual as well, and let me know that you are here to have a conversation. And obviously, let's cover all the basic Arsenal news over the weekend. Hope you guys are keeping well. So, I'm going to start off first and foremost by congratulating one of our own in basically Ethan Wanyeri. Obviously, as you guys know, he was part of the squad members who won the Euros, in Euros under 21 championship over the weekend. So here we are. Ethan Wanyeri obviously holding the trophy with the manager. And yeah, I mean, to be fair, he played well throughout the tournament whenever he came on. He never actually really started any games as per se. But yeah, that's him holding a trophy. That is back to back, I think, for Lee Carsley now, winning the Euros under 23. Is it under 23 or under 21? Can't remember now. Winning the trophy, obviously, back to back now, 2 years, obviously, first in 2023, which Emile Smith Rowe was actually part of the squad then as well. And now he's won it again with Ethan Wanyeri, one of our own Arsenal player. Obviously, now he goes away on his long awaited summer break, and hopefully he will have a good summer and come back in one piece. So yeah, congratulations basically going out to our one and only Ethan Wanyeri. Now, obviously, as you guys know, today it is 30th of June, which means there's a lot of players. There's a lot of players across all clubs around probably the world that their contract are coming to an end. If obviously they're in the last year of the contract, there's going to be a lot of announcements tomorrow by various clubs where a lot of players are going to be going out or they're going to become free agents. Let's put it that way. And unfortunately, our very own, and obviously this has definitely caused a lot of split opinions amongst the fan base, especially like myself. I've said previously in one of my previous shows, I'm not in agreement with this one, but obviously it seems like it's going ahead. And obviously it was again reiterated today that Thomas Partey is set to leave Arsenal when his contract ends tomorrow. Dave Ornstein basically said the decision final after an agreement could not be found on a new deal for the 32-year-old midfielder. Arsenal confirmation expected in the coming days, plus the Ghanaian international to take time before choosing his next move at the Athletic. Yeah, guys, Thomas Partey is going to become a free agent. And as you guys can see at the bottom here, this was the reaction. This was the reaction when Arsenal signed Thomas Partey 5 years ago. 5 years ago. It's crazy, isn't it? And a lot of people were happy when we got this guy over the line. And the circumstances surrounding Thomas Partey joining Arsenal, if you didn't already know, Arsenal was trying to negotiate with Atletico Madrid at the time. Atletico Madrid basically said, no, we don't want to sell him, not up for sale. But unfortunately for them, they obviously inserted a release clause in Arsenal and basically in his contract, sorry, and Arsenal basically said, you know what, if you're not going to negotiate, he's got a release clause, and as per La Liga rules, you have to pay the full release clause in one go, basically. You can't do any sort of part payment in installments as you would with any sort of transfers. So Arsenal said, you know what, we are going to go straight to La Liga and we're going to pay the release clause without contacting Atletico Madrid. And so they did. And thereafter, Thomas Partey became an Arsenal player. And the rest is history. He's been there 5 years. they've tried to renegotiate a new deal. There's speculations to suggest that Partey definitely wanted, not definitely, it was rumored that he wanted a 2-year deal plus a pay rise of up to about 250 grand a week. He's currently on around 200, and he wanted about up to 250 grand a week. And Arsenal basically said no, because ultimately he's going to become second fiddle to Zubimendi, who's going to be coming in hopefully very, very shortly. Should be announced sometime this week. So Arsenal were like, no, for a 32-year-old to be sitting on the bench of 250 grand a week, it didn't make any financial sense. And on that part, I definitely agree. And it wouldn't make sense paying him that much to be sitting on the bench and potentially not starting every Premier League game, as Zubimendi is going to be coming in. So I kind of get that part. But again, do I agree with him going on a free transfer? Possibly not, because we were promised a couple of years ago with the old regime and a couple of people that have now left the club in terms of people above in the board. They basically said if Arsenal are basically, if we have a player that's left with 2 years left on their contract and they're not willing to negotiate or sign a new deal, then we're gonna have to try and sell them and potentially make some sort of money. And that's obviously not the case when it comes to Thomas Partey. And it's gonna be one of those things. I'm of the opinion that anyone that signs Thomas Partey this is gonna be a massive coup for them, because I do honestly believe he's gonna slot into any team. He's still got, yes, he's 32, but and yes, he is injury prone, but at the same time, I just feel like he's still got a lot to offer. He was one of our best players, not even just in midfield, but one of our best players in Arsenal last season. He was quite diverse. He played in midfield, he played in the right back position without complaining. And yes, he missed a few games. He got injured, and I think ultimately a lot of people got angry with him when he got that suspension. I think when we were playing Real Madrid at the Bernabeu, which then meant that he was going to be out of the PSG first leg Champions League game. Listen, and then at the end of the day, it's happened. It happens, but it's not a one-man team. Do you know what I mean? It's a squad game. But listen, Thomas Partey is going to believe in Arsenal, and I think there's a lot of people in the fan base that are not happy with this. And unfortunately, I say unfortunately, I'm one of them. I am definitely not happy with the fact that Thomas Partey is going to be leaving Arsenal Football Club. And it's going to be quite weird. It's going to be very strange and very weird to be watching an Arsenal game next season without seeing Thomas Partey in that midfield. And I just feel like to have two new midfielders, especially central midfielders or defensive midfielders, in the heart of Arsenal sort of midfield, um, basically supporting the back four. Sorry, I don't know. Like Zubimendi, definitely, we already know he's going to be a starter. But I just feel like somebody that's coming into a new league, into a new team, a new system, is going to be quite hard for him to adapt to the Premier League. And I just felt like having someone like a Thomas Partey there would have allowed him, who's played in a club for the last 5 years, he knows the system, he knows the club in and out, would have been able to guide him correctly. Yes, Norgaad has played in the Premier League, but he also is coming in as a fresh face into the club. He hasn't played for Arsenal in the past, so I don't know. I don't know. This is a strange one for me. It's got strange feelings, to say the least. Um, yeah, and that's basically it. Come tomorrow, 1st of July, Thomas Partey will no longer be an Arsenal player, and I'm expecting an announcement from Arsenal. I'll probably be doing a video on that as well, so make sure you follow and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Yeah, I definitely expect Arsenal to make an announcement, an official announcement, because the Premier League actually listed Thomas Partey on one of the players that actually got released by Arsenal. Um, but obviously, Arsenal on their website basically stated that they were still in discussions with him, or he was one of the players that they were still in discussion with and renegotiating a contract. And obviously, they will let us know how that goes. But as we already know, it didn't go well. So just expect a announcement tomorrow, if not 1st of July, but sometime this week there's going to be an announcement to basically confirm that Arsenal have not been able to reach a deal with Thomas Partey, and unfortunately he's going to be leaving as an Arsenal player. Now, let's move on. That is it. Good luck to him. I wish him all the best. Like I said, I'm in his camp. I'm in the Thomas Partey camp. I like the guy. I like the player. But it is what it is. But listen, let's move on. So we move on to the transfers before I get on to the potential announcements this week. So this week, there's been a lot of rumors. A lot of rumors. So there's this one player that apparently Arsenal are now considering are now seriously considering um, a bid for, and they're following him quite closely. And or however, he seems to have a very very high price tag, and that player just happens to be another player that's been linked to another so many Premier League clubs, including Liverpool, and that player is basically Ekatike. Currently, obviously, I think he plays for Frankfurt in Germany. Sort of. I think he used to play for PSG. Then went up to Frankfurt. Basically, similar. Sort of stats to I think Seshko in terms of how many goals and assists that he contributed last season. So he's a player that's been well sourced after. Liverpool, as I said, is one of them. Manchester United have made contact with him, and now it's been reported that Arsenal are now seriously considering Hugo Ekitike and Andre Berta. But however, he doesn't want to spend up to 100 million euros, which is basically what's been reported that Frankfurt want for Ekitike. As I said, Arsenal are not the only team that are currently linked with this man. Liverpool are, Manchester United are, and a few other clubs. And apparently, one of the reasons why the price is so high is because PSG actually has a sell-on clause. That's what I have heard. They actually have, I don't know the percentage, but apparently they have a sell-on clause. So Frankfurt wants to get as much money as possible because they know they'll have to pay PSG in terms of the selling clause. So the more money they get, obviously they pay PSG, they get more money as well in their pocket. So let me know, guys, what do you guys think about this transfer? For me personally, again, I don't know too much about him, but obviously he's a name that's been well sourced after. I've heard it so many times. I'm not gonna sit here and lie. Said I've watched a lot of German football, especially when it comes to Frankfurt. But I have heard his name a lot. I haven't watched a lot of videos about him, and I can't sit here and say I know much about him. But if you guys do, let me know in the comments as per usual. But he's one of those players that Arsenal apparently are currently looking at the moment. I don't know. At the beginning of the transfer, I'm one of those people. I've basically said I would rather Gyökeres, but it's not looking likely. It's more looking likely as though that Arsenal are potentially going to be signing Seshko. With Gyökeres, it's clear as day. I think it's been reported so many times that he's basically said it's not going back to Sporting. I think almost every club in Europe are going to need or have to be reporting back to the training ground very, very shortly because pre-season is going to be starting very soon. Arsenal are going to be traveling to, I think, South Korea. Excuse me, South Korea, North Korea, I think it is for their pre-season tour. And that starts on July the 19th. So that's basically almost 19 days away. And I've got it here on my screen that Arsenal's first pre-season game is 22 days away. 22 days away. So 22 days before we start seeing Arsenal back in action. And I know it's only going to be friendly games and stuff like that, but 22 days before we see Arsenal Football Club back in action. Are we actually going to see any new signings before then? Ekatike obviously is one of the players that's been linked to us. Are we actually serious about this? Are we going to be able to afford it? Considering like Gyökeres apparently is going for 70 to 80 million euros. That's what Sporting wants for him. Then you got Seshko, he's going for similar price, and then obviously you've got Ekatike going for a little bit more than that. And is he a player that Arsenal are seriously considering at this moment in time? Because personally, I'll be wanting to use that money elsewhere. You know, I'll be wanting to use that money elsewhere. And one of the players at the moment that that I would personally want to be using that money towards is this man that apparently, since last week Friday, the name just popped out of nowhere. I say nowhere, but I'm gonna guess that he's been linked with Arsenal in the past. But he's risen and appears to be moving quite quickly, guys. And that player is Eberiche Eze. And I said this in my last video that Eberiche Eze is linked to Arsenal Football Club. And there was a discussion I had. I said, is it Eze or Rodrigo? And this seems to be quite serious because initially you hear a lot of rumors that Arsenal are linked with this player, Arsenal are linked with that player. But They broke this news, said Arsenal are initially considering Eberechi Eze, and now it was reported earlier today that Arsenal have made contact with Eze's camp over the weekend. Contacts are taking place for the Crystal Palace star, with Arsenal informed on a deal condition. Tottenham are also quite keen on Eze. So again, there's that discussion. Do we get Eze or do we get Rodrigo? Which one would you rather have? And I did say, and I think I did say in my last video that I'm very inclined to pick Eze over Rodrigo. I know he's older. I think he's going to like 27 years old or 28 now. Um, it's going to cost around 60 million pounds. Arsenal can pay 20 million pounds in installments, in free installments, for example, and he'll probably be a cheaper option to Rodrigo in the long run. Obviously, cheaper wages potentially. I don't know how much he's currently earning at Crystal Palace at the moment, but I'll be surprised if he's earning up to 100 grand a week. As you know, if he came to Arsenal, that's going to significantly increase. So we're looking probably into the 120s, 150s if it came to Arsenal in terms of wages, which is probably, I'm going to assume, is a lot cheaper than Rodrigo, because Rodrigo's potentially going to cost us. I think there's reports to suggest that Real Madrid, if they are willing to sell, they're going to want something in the regions of 90 million euros, which is about 77 million pounds. And then if you think about his wages, probably you're looking in the regions of 200 to 250,000 pounds a week. It's like when you weigh it up, it's like I'd rather Eze, Premier League proven. Yes, it's 27 or slash 28, but he's hungry. He can play multiple positions. He can play the left wing role. He can play the number 10 role as well, which can cover either Odegaard or Wanyeri. You know, it's not going to start. And then there's been a lot of reports that suggest, or people suggesting that, is this actually by signing Eze, would that stump Wanyeri's growth? And I'm of the opinion that he's not. If anything, Wanyeri can then learn from Eze and also from Saka, you know, because he can play multiple positions. So that might potentially enable him to up his game a little bit. And to be fair, I wouldn't even mind if we got Eze and he was a backup, let's say, to Odegaard. If you, let's just hypothetically say, worst thing in the world, you send Ethan Wanyeri on a year loan and let him develop a little bit more, I wouldn't mind that. Not sell him, but like sign a new contract, 5-year deal, like Miles Lewis Kelly has, and then you just send Wanyeri on loan for like a year. Let him go and develop abroad. Probably let him send him to like Germany, maybe like a Dortmund or RB Leipzig or something, or you know, Nice or whatever. Even Monaco, you know, they tend to develop players quite well in that part of the world. So I wouldn't mind it. I'm not saying that that's what they should do. I'm just saying having a player like Eberechi Eze, man, I think it will add great quality to Arsenal, in my opinion. As we all know, he was a Arsenal academy player, got released at the age of 13, and he's always spoken about how he would love to play for Arsenal again. So, in my opinion, just bring him back home. But at the same time, in the same tone, I'll be inclined to get him and Rodrigo if we can afford it. People suggest that we can't afford it, and I'm like, why? Why can we not afford it? Why can we not afford it? Why can we not afford Eberechi Eze and Rodrigo? I know I've just spoken about the wages are going to be high, but ultimately, we need quality in depth. People keep saying Arsenal don't have quality in depth. This, by doing that, is quality in depth. Imagine signing Eze, imagine signing Rodrigo, and then you bring in a striker. Mate, our defense is already solid as you can be. One of the best defense, and apparently we're going to be adding to that as well. And then you add a player like Eberechi Eze and Rodrigo, and then let's just say Yokerez or Sesko. We're cooking. I don't care what anyone says. We're cooking. We're cooking. So I'm down for it. I'm down for it. And as excited as I am about this Eze thing, then we were given a little bit of a warning, just calm ourselves down a little bit by hand of Arsenal, basically saying that his understanding is that a meeting took place with Eze's camp on Saturday. Arteta was part of these exploratory talks, by the way. I'm yet to be told personal terms are agreed or we have approached Crystal Palace. Until we do, I advise caution until a serious move is made for now. So he's advising caution. So as much as us in the fan base are like, get into my veins, bring him home, we get so excited. By the time we get all these rumors, we get really excited. Like, yes, Eze, finally, quality. But now we're being reminded, just calm it down a little bit. Just calm it down with caution because no personal terms has been agreed, although there's been many reports by other accounts that we have agreed a personal terms with Eze. But you see people like this, Hand of Arsenal, I really trust them. Really reputable account. Um, they're hardly ever wrong. So if they're saying no personal terms have been agreed yet, Arsenal have not approached Crystal Palace, and until we do, he's advising caution. I'll say just take that caution and relax a bit. But I will say though, I think things are gonna start progressing a lot this week. There's gonna be a couple of announcements when it comes to transfers. There's gonna be a couple of like maybe terms agreed, fees agreed with certain clubs, and all that kind of things. And I just feel like Arsenal are about to start making movements in this transfer window. Arsenal are about to start make. I think, like I said, come the 1st of January, that's when Arsenal's transfer window ultimately start. I think it's going to start potentially with the announcement of Partey leaving. That's going to be, I think, in my opinion, I think that's going to be the first one. And then it's going to be a case of, oh, we've now signed Zubimendi. Whether they'll do that the same day, it's low in Arsenal. They probably won't because that's just how they love to operate. They probably won't. And then it'll be a case of, okay, and I think then they'll announce Zubimendi, in my opinion. And I think that's potentially what Arsenal are going to do. They're going to announce initially. They're going to initially announce that Thomas Partey has left Arsenal Football Club potentially because they couldn't reach an agreement because for whatever. I mean, let's be honest, Arsenal are not going to be like, oh, because he was asking for 250 grand a week. Then they're not going to do that. Let's be honest about it. Let's not try and beat around the bush. Arsenal's got class, and Arsenal are never going to do that. So let's be honest about it. But what I do think, and I think the player that they will, so after announcing that Partey has departed, excuse the pun, I think the next potential announcement that Arsenal will then make is that they have signed Zubimendi. And I think that's going to be the next thing. Arsenal are going to then announce and say, basically, Partey is gone. We have to move on. We have now secured potentially his replacement in Martin Zubimendi, who we've been chasing for the past year. Obviously, he got announced. The rumor initially got broken in January. I remember it vividly, and I remember where I was when that happened. Quite a sunny day, actually, cold but sunny day. That Zubimendi obviously has agreed to join Arsenal in the summer. I remember it was Sambi Mokbel that initially announced that, and he basically broke the news. And I think he went on a podcast recently that he had to do his due diligence. And don't get me wrong, journalists, they do get it wrong sometimes, but because he was the first one to this news, he crossed all his T's, dotted all his I's, and basically made sure that he was getting this right because he could have come back and bite him in the backside. But he basically did all his research, got all his information. Basically, he got it right. He was the first one. I remember when that happened, everyone's like, what? Did it 6 months ago? This guy was about to sign for Liverpool, and he said he doesn't want to go to Liverpool anymore, or he wants to stay in Sociedad. And then 6 months later, you're not reporting that he's going to be joining Arsenal in the summer. And everyone was like, no, if Arsenal, and at that time, let me remind you this, and at that time, I remember because it was still the January transfer window was still open, and everybody was like, Arsenal need to sign a striker. And then this news broke, and everyone's thinking, it's like you couldn't be excited. It's like a part of you was like, okay, we're getting a good player, but that's for the summer. And at that time, we were like, we're trying to chase for the Premier League title. We need a player now. So it was a bit of like mixed emotions. Had it been Arsenal signed a striker and then this news broke as it did, I think a lot of us would have been a lot more excited than we were. But unfortunately, the excitement was overshadowed for the fact that Arsenal needed a striker and didn't sign a striker until obviously last minute they tried to get Zubimendi. So I think, I mean, they tried to get Ollie Watkins from Aston Villa, and that kind of went down the drain really, really quickly. So I think ultimately the first signing is going to be, or the first announcement this week when it comes to incomings, is going to be Zubimendi, in my opinion. And then I'm of the opinion it's then going to be followed by this man, Mr. Kepa. Yep, Kepa, £5 million agreed. A 5 million release clause, not even agreed. Release clause from Chelsea. Apparently, he's done all his medical, he's done all his paperwork, he's done all his media work. It's just a matter of announcement. So again, he's coming in as a backup to David Raya, probably a good, capable, permanent backup. I'm not gonna lie, Spanish international as well. Hasn't really played much for Spain for a long time. And personally, I don't think he probably ever will, considering that Raya is in front of him. And even in front of Raya, he's got a couple of keepers in front of him when it comes to Spain international. So, but nevertheless, it's a good backup when it comes to Arsenal. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you agree, if you don't disagree, do you like this signing? And everyone's saying it's another Chelsea reject. I was one of them. I'm not gonna lie, I was a bit like, why are we signing this man? But then when I thought about it, and I took a step back and I thought, actually, this makes financial sense. 5 million, hopefully not on a massive wage. He knows his place. It's not going to be a case of, when he was playing for Chelsea at that time and he had that situation with Sari when he was asked to come off in the Carabao Cup against Manchester City. And then he was like, no, 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 I ain't coming up. I'm just hoping that he knows he's coming in as a backup to David Raya. So hopefully he knows his place. So it's not going to be a case of, oh, I mean, to be fair, it could be a case of I'm coming to challenge David Raya, because ironically, the Spanish coach is also Arsenal's goalkeeping coach, so he knows them both quite well. But yeah, that's going to be basically be, I reckon, the next announcement when it comes to Arsenal this transfer window. And obviously, as we know, then it's going to be a matter of Thomas Partey's replacement, who is then, I reckon, is going to get announced almost instantaneously straight after that. And that is Christian Norgaad. Again, this is a potential signing that's going to leave a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths. It's going to be like Marmite. You either love it or you hate it. And unfortunately, I don't hate it, but I don't love it. I'm kind of like bang in the middle, and I just think like this is one of those signings where it was very underwhelming. As I said at the start of the show, I was more of a, you know, Thomas Partey guy that I wanted him to stay. And then you get the news that, oh, we're signing Norgaard from Brentford. And everyone's like, what? Where did that come from? Why? How? And I was one of them. I said it on my TikTok, and I think I didn't lose the plot, but I was very underwhelmed. And it just came out of nowhere that, oh, we're signing Zubimendi, we're signing Norgaard. And I was just like, oh my god, why? Why? How? Where did this come from? Have they been watching him for a while? Was it actually on the list of players that were originally considering? I just personally didn't understand it at the time. But then sometimes you just have to accept it, because at the end of the day, you're a fan. You're there to support the club, and you're there to support whatever decision that they've made. So I took some time. I analyzed it, and I thought, okay, maybe it does make financial sense. And again, it's just like the Kepa, it makes financial sense considering all the other outlays that we've got to do in terms of a striker, left winger, possibly an attacking and another attacking player. And there's reports to suggest that we might be obviously signing another defender. I'll get onto that in a minute. And yeah, you take a step back and you're thinking, actually, it might make financial sense that we're actually signing Norgaard. It's reported that it's going to be something in the regions of about £10 million plus £5 million in add-ons. Yeah, I guess it's just one of those things where, does it make sense? Probably not to me, but does it make sense to Arsenal? Yes. And I think ultimately that's what it becomes. It doesn't have to make sense to us, but it obviously makes sense to Arsenal. And that's basically where we are. in regards to that. So yeah, and another thing is, we have another deal potentially that I reckon that may obviously get announced this week. As you can see in the right hand corner, I've got Norgaad there. Zubimendi is probably the big signing for this window so far. Then we've got Kepa, and the other man that I've got literally is Christian Mosquera. I believe that is his name. Obviously, he's been linked with Arsenal since last week. Again, this was one of the surprising announcements as well. So since I basically made that video last week when I did the live, if you haven't watched it, go back and watch it. I basically said that Arsenal obviously are in for this player. I didn't know too much about him. Um, I barely watch all the La Liga games. Most of the La Liga games that I generally watch is probably Real Madrid, as they are my Spanish team, but generally I don't watch the rest. And I was like, who is this guy? But then I saw compilations of video of him on YouTube, and I thought, okay, he looks decent. But yeah, it's been reported again by Fabrizio Romano. So the reports were Arsenal obviously had agreed personal terms with him at the time. We're talking to Valencia, and apparently they had reached a deal. That was the rumor at the time, and obviously it's come out since then that Arsenal have reached full agreement on personal terms with Christian Mosquera. However, a new proposal is set to be submitted after the opening bid of 14 million euros got rejected. Got rejected. I was like, what? So Arsenal hope to get the deal done for a fee in the excess of 20 million euros. Talks are underway. And it was one of those things where I'm like, generally, when club to club, I mean, I don't know, but because I don't work in the field and I'm not an expert or whatever, but normally when you make inquiries in general life, like if you wanted to purchase something, you make an inquiry with whoever the owner is, and you say, listen, I mean, I'm interested in this item. How much are you willing to take for it? Right? Generally, the owner will be like, they'll give you an X amount. Let's just say, okay, you know what? Listen, mate, listen, it's I'll take 15 million. Yeah, I'll take 15 million. And you're like, okay. So you want 15 million. What is the last price? Is it 15 million flat out, or are you willing to negotiate? And the person might come back to you and say there might be some wiggle room for negotiation, but obviously not too much. So not too much. We're talking from 15 million. You're probably gonna say, okay, how about 13? And the guy could probably say, okay. Or he could be like, maybe you need to go up a little bit. 13 and a half, 13, maybe 14, maybe. But the point I'm trying to make is Arsenal made a bid of 14 million euros and it got rejected. And now you're going from 14 to 20 in the excess, which means it's potentially going to be more. So, which means now you now need to structure the payments in terms of maybe they'll get maybe 15 to 20 million guaranteed euros guaranteed, and then maybe like the rest in add-ons, which is usually a lot of people do add-ons, maybe appearances, goals, clean sheets, Champions League, Champions League appearances, trophies, and all of that. And if you meet all of that, then you have to pay this certain amount. That so basically add-ons that are realistic. But how did Arsenal get this so wrong? Because I was under the impression that they had this on the wraps. Because you still got other teams looking at this man. Apparently, you got other teams such as I think it's Real Madrid. So Real Madrid's plan, as they do, is well, they're waiting for this man because he's got 1 year left on his contract. Apparently, they were waiting for him to become a free agent next summer and basically scoop him up then. So Arsenal are aware of this. Arsenal are possibly trying to move fast. But how did you get this so wrong to the point where I just think it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to the point where I just think like it kind of reminds me of that Suarez deal, 40 million and £1. You knew Liverpool what they wanted at the time. And again, with the Watkins, you waited till almost the last minute before you went in and bidded for Watkins, but then you was under the amount and you knew for a fact that they were never going to sell Watkins because they couldn't replace him. So yeah, I don't know. Personally, I just find this quite embarrassing, but I do think it will be a good addition to the squad. Obviously, a good replacement potentially for Saliba. But then, do you know what as well? I was thinking about guys, right? And then I was thinking about, I was like, Arsenal trying to get this guy in. We've got Saliba, and apparently he's quite Saliba-like. And we all know Real Madrid long term won Saliba. So I was trying to put two and two together. Like, if Arsenal get this man, by the start of the 25-26 season, Saliba will have 2 years left on his contract, probably by the end of that season, right? And as we know, Real Madrid don't mind waiting. They will wait till your contract runs out, or to the point where it's kind of like you have to put in a transfer request that you want to leave. I say that to say, is Mosquero a long-term replacement for Saliba, or is he just a backup? Because I'm of the assumption, long-term, I think this guy is a replacement for Saliba. Watch the space. That's just the way I see it. That's the way I see it. Because why are we going for a 20-year-old and then what is playing second fiddle? I know we had a lot of injuries, but I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking a bit too much into it, but you guys let me know what you guys think. But it's food for thought. It's food for thought. Are we doing this? Is Saliba? Are we actually? I know they're negotiating a new deal for Saliba apparently, which will be fantastic if it's signed. And then it's a case of, what about if he didn't sign? Because I'm hoping Gabriel signing a new contract will encourage players like Saka, Erdegaard, Saliba to sign up, because that's our spine. And then hopefully we get a striker. Because right now, our spine is David Raya, Gabriel Saliba, maybe Mars Lewis Skelly, but he's fairly new to that. In the middle, I mean, I'm gonna put Zubimendi. I know he hasn't walked through the door yet, but let's be honest, it's practically that. Then you've got Odegaard, Declan Rice, and hopefully the striker, and obviously Bukayo Saka. That's Those are our main key players. Even talking about Declan Rice, he's going into the third year of his contract already, and I think he signed a 5-year deal. So again, he's going into the season with 2 years left on his contract. Before you know it, we're gonna by the end of next season, we're gonna have to start renegotiating a new deal for Declan Rice. So we've got a lot of work to do. But my thing is, why are Arsenal not giving like 6-7 year contract like Chelsea? Or is it a case of this players don't want it? Can we not do it? Can we not afford it? Especially to all our key players. Players like, or is it a case of those players don't want to get tied down and potentially because they think that Arsenal might not win a trophy within that time and then they have to move on, or they'll get priced out if they wanted to leave? There's a lot of questions because all these players that Chelsea keep signing, like for example, Chelsea are now, they're going to be signing Gittins from Dortmund. And apparently he's agreed a 7-year contract, which a lot of their players are either on 7, 8, 9, 10-year contracts. And I know they're trying to sell some of them, but it makes it hard. But the fact is, like, they're contracted to Chelsea. So imagine, for example, you've got players like Bukayo Saka, Odegaard, Declan Rice, Saliba, Gabriel, Mars Lewis Skelly, tied out for 7 years. You will need to start renegotiating for another 5. If they really love this club and really wanted to commit themselves to this club, they'll do it. However, they also want to win a trophy, and I totally get it. Because if I was in their shoes, I'd be like, mate, listen, I play football to win trophies. I didn't play just to play or just to get paid. I want something to show for the end of my playing career to be like, listen, I want this and I want that. So, yeah, if that's the case, then I totally get it. Totally get it. Yeah. But yeah, that is basically where we are today, guys. 30th of June, last day of June. As I said, there's going to be a lot of players' contracts coming to an end. So you guys, there's going to be a lot of announcements tomorrow from Arsenal, from various other clubs of players being released. I mean, Everton, they're releasing so many players. Calvert-Lewin basically announced today that he's leaving as a free agent. There was I can't remember what the name of the player was the other day that announced he's leaving. There's so many clubs that are going to be releasing players within the next couple of days, or by tomorrow they're going to say this player has left due to the end of the contract. Thank you for your service. Wishing you all the best in your next adventure, your next, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, tomorrow, and I think July is going to be a busy period, and I just pray and hope that Arsenal actually gets a lot of their businesses done before before July the 19th. I think they need to get it done way before, because even I saw earlier today that Arsenal's under 18 are back in training. I mean, it's still Arsenal, so let's not disregard that. To start off with, let's not disregard that, because at the end of the day, over here, I am covering Arsenal football news. And saying that, it isn't news, but apparently Arsenal got a new sponsor. Look at that, guys. And I'm not promoting this, by the way. Thrilled to announce that Asahi Super Dry as our official beer partner, and I'm sure, I'm quite sure this company sponsors um Manchester City. I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but I'm definitely sure I've seen it on their shirts, most especially I think their training gear. I'm sure of it, but as I said, I could be wrong. I could definitely be wrong, but I'm definitely sure I saw it. So that's in other news. So yeah, very interesting brand new edition of the women's kit. Oh, very nice. Oh, a brand new edition of the women's kit. Sorry, guys, just checking all the other news as you do. And look at that. Imagine the men's team had this 2 stars, or even just one. When we win the Champions League, I can't wait for that. You know, this is a special edition, a brand new addition to the women's kit. I would love that. I would love that. I'll just, you know what? I just feel like just buying it for the sake of it. honestly, honestly, I just buy for the sake of it, because just to have the 2 stars. I'm being serious. Yep. As I was saying earlier, I think it was I saw it earlier. The Arsenal under 18 guys. What do you think about this guy, Max Dowman? Because apparently he's going to be breaking into the first team come next season. I think he's officially an Arsenal under 16 player now. Um, yeah, it's going to be very interesting indeed, to say the least, in my opinion. But yeah, I saw it earlier that the under 18s had returned back to training, and for some reason it's not coming up. Not coming up. But yeah, we move. Listen, guys, thank you for joining. I'm still buzzing about this Miles Lewis Skelly um contract signing, and Arsenal obviously gonna be um starting their pre-season very shortly. I can imagine. I think the players might actually be back to pre-season training, because I think they fly off to Spain before they then go off to Singapore, I believe it is, for their tour. So they're going to be going to Spain for some warm weather training, because I think we saw their fitness coach there with Partey, Saliba, Calafiori, and there was one other player. We saw the picture last week, and yeah, they're all there. They're all gonna be there. So I think come this week, later on this week, I think early next week, a lot of the players are gonna be returning for pre-season training. Obviously, they start off quite light, and then obviously then they basically go on and start basically doing the full training. Then I think they fly over to Spain in Mallorca, I believe it is, where they then go ahead to do warm weather training. So it's going to be very interesting and very appealing when we now start seeing all the players coming back. So yeah, this is a picture actually. What I saw earlier today, the under 18s have returned. The Arsenal under 18s are back in training after their summer break, and this is what I'm saying. They're all coming back now. So this is the under 18s. They're now back. Hopefully we'll see some of these players. And this is under 18s. He doesn't even look under 18s. Sorry, apologies, but yeah, he doesn't. So hopefully we'll probably see some of these players potentially breaking through Arsenal into the Arsenal's first team. I mean, that's the hope. That's what we basically want. Um, as time goes on, and then we basically see how that one goes as well. So, guys, listen, thank you for joining in. That is basically the news for today. The main one is that sad times. Thomas Partey leaves Arsenal Football Club. Is gonna be missed. I don't care what anyone says. All I'm saying is, yeah, anybody, and I'm gonna say this, anybody that was up for Thomas Partey leaving and saying good riddance and all of that stuff, don't come next season. Don't come next season when it's not going well for Arsenal in the midfield and saying we should have kept Partey. Because I'm saying it now. I'm in the Thomas Partey camp. We should have kept him. Don't come saying next season we should have kept him when you were probably part of the people. Not that you had any influence in it, but you was like, yeah, get rid of him. But it is what it is. But listen, guys, you know what to do. If you're new around here, please hit that like and subscribe button. Don't forget to share this video. As you know, I'll do my lives. If there's any breaking news that comes out with Arsenal, I'll be sure to jump on here as of when I can. Sharing that with you, sharing my views on it as expected. Zubimendi to be announced this week, Norgaad, Kepa, and then hopefully we'll agree a deal with Eze and we'll agree with a deal with Mosquera, and then obviously then we'll be back for pre-season sometime next week. So yeah, listen guys, you know what to do. Like, share, subscribe, follow me on all my social media platforms, and until the next time, I will see you guys. Have a good one, Gooners.